Welcome to Sardi Sandwiches. Today's the first episode. It's a special episode, and we're gonna take it from here. So I think we're gonna call these sessions with Mom. Do you like that name, Mom?
I do. I do.
Sessions with Mom. It can evolve from there. But
Yeah, I like that.
yeah, this is the first time we're recording. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna share a little bit of our story. She probably doesn't want me to put this out there, but she's a drug and alcohol counselor, so she does there's going to be a lot of addiction, codependency, conversation, things like that. But we're going to be sharing stories, about like us growing up, her upbringing, my upbringing, funny stories about things that weren't funny at the time, but are kind of funny in hindsight. You know what I mean?
My mom, I'm Nettie. I'm Charlie's mom. And I was telling Charlie, like, this is the first time I've done anything like this. I'm looking forward to it. I feel strange sitting here, but whatever. I'm sure I'll get used to it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
liked what you said about the whole introduction. I like that. I like that.
Good. So I don't know. Like, why don't we just start off right off to the bat? Instead of messing around. Like, from the time I was born, right? Like how old you were, because that's really going to set the tone for like everything, I think. And by the way, this was my mom's idea to do this. This was your idea, Mom, and I thought it was great. Like the minute you said it, I was like, oh my god, like let's get started immediately. So you got a new webcam, so you're all prepped up. You got your nice scenery back there, looking good. You know what I mean? Yeah. So everything's
Yeah.
good to go. Um,
Okay.
so let's do that, Ma. So why don't you like, I know I sent you. I know we talked a little bit about how we want to start it. So let's just kind of start from the beginning with you and I, because I mean, that's where all this kind of started. With how old you were, your situation, your parents, my dad, that kind of stuff.
Okay. I well, let's see. You mean before I met your dad, or when I met your dad, or what? Or just when you were born? How do we start?
Start when I was born. Like I know your father passed away before I was born. My grandfather. Like maybe that. How old you were? Like
Okay. So, I was 22, I think, when you were born, Charlie. I was 22. Yeah. And we lived in Reading in an apartment. We owned an apartment house, first and second floor. It was in the middle of winter. It was a really bad snowstorm that year. And I can vividly see it. It was we like I said, we had the first floor apartment. You walked in and there was a living room. Our bedroom was in the middle, and then the kitchen was in the back. So I had let's see. Should we talk about when I went to the hospital? No.
I mean, you can talk about
Huh?
whatever you want.
No, you were born in Reading on, I think it was Clymer Street. It was Clymer Street, and it was a really bad snowstorm that year, like I said. So anyway, we came home from the hospital. Well, first back in the hospital when you were born, your dad came in the room and he goes, "I had to have a C-section because of complications." So after came out and everything, then he comes back in the room and he goes, "We're naming him Gino." I said, "Gino? You are never naming him Gino. Over my dead body, you're naming him Gino." It's the only thing that I ever got in my way with your dad, right? So I said Charlie, and I want Jason as the middle name. So we named you Charles Jason Sardi, and of course, after your dad and grandpa. So yeah, Gino was not that I don't like the name Gino, but I just didn't want it back then.
I'm glad I don't have
So
that
here,
name either. When I was younger, I might have liked it. When I wanted to be like
say that again.
Italian, I said I'm glad that I'm not Gino either. Cause like back in the day when I was like Italian, I wanted to be
Oh yeah,
Gino. Charlie's way better.
oh my God. Yeah, you feel Gino. Not that we don't like a Gino. We like a Gino.
We like
But
Ginos.
anyway, so you were born, we went home, and let's see. I don't know. Like, I just don't know. We brought you home, and like I said, it was real cold and snowy, and I think it was almost like 3 weeks into your birth, maybe a month. It was January, the month of January. And I remember um, I don't know. I said something to your dad about his mom because your dad and I loved I know you loved your grandma, and I don't want to say nothing bad about your grandma, but I'm talking about as a married woman. Your dad and grandma were almost like a married couple, and I always felt very jealous of that relationship. And he always, even though he was with me, it was really he was with that house with her. So I remember in January, I don't know, we had some kind of fight, and it was real cold, and you know how when it's really snowy and lonely outside. It was no one on the street or anything. And I remember he left, and we had a big fight, and he left, and that was it. He never came back. And I was young, I was scared, I didn't have a good job, I had a little baby, and I was sitting in this cold apartment. I remember that, and looking outside. And so anyway, then he never came back. He went to your mom and dad's, and
My nana and pop.
Nan and
His
Pop,
mom
and
and
he
dad, yeah.
went there.
He went to his mom and dad's.
He went to his mom and dad's, yeah. And there you and I were. And I had a mom. My mom lived, well, your nana. You don't remember your nana, but I remember just, I don't remember. Oh yeah, I guess I was waitressing. I don't know. I didn't waitress at that time. I didn't have a job at that time because I worked with your dad in our sandwich shop. So after he had left, I don't know what happened. He paid. I don't know, but I remember the spring coming, and I remember it was getting warmer out, and I still lived at that house. And I remember this specifically. I got you all dressed up in your baby carriage, and I was feeling better by then and not as desperate. And of course, I wanted to get back at him, because I was hot and everything like that. So I put you in your baby carriage, and we walked by the sandwich shop, and I said, I'm going in the sandwich shop today. And I walked into the sandwich shop, and I said, oh, happy divorce, because we were getting divorced. I just wanted to say happy divorce day or something, like a big jerk. But for me, that I felt that gave me more power. I felt powerful then because I was taking my power back. And I remember that. So anyway, you were a beautiful baby. People used to stop me all the time because you have a perfectly round face, round head. And people used to stop and say how beautiful you were. And, so let's see. Then I remember it was a spring, like I said, and it was in May. It was a very hot May. I was still living there. I was deciding on what I was going to do because he was selling the house. Um, and he gave, oh God, I had a choice of cars to pick. I couldn't have the house. He was selling it, but I could have a car. So it was between a 1963 gold Corvette, split window Corvette, or a Volkswagen light blue bug.
We got the bug.
Six, yeah, what a dumbass. Because I thought, well, I can't drive this baby in this Corvette. How am I going to put the? It's like so loud and smelly, and I can't put the car seat aside of me. My God, it'll never work. Never realizing in my mind how much this Corvette is going to be. So I take the Volkswagen automatic shifter bug and stick you in the back seat. And even this 69 Volkswagen Bug is worth money today, but not like this split window Corvette.
I remember I used to love the windshield wiper fluid. I used to always love playing with
Really?
that. Yeah, and we had a hitchhiking out one time. Remember?
Yeah. What happened? Now your mic kind of faded out. What we did? What?
I said we hitchhiked in there
We hitchhiked. And what?
in the blue punch buggy. We broke down on the side of the highway.
Yeah. How do you? I never. I don't remember.
You don't
I would have
remember
never
that?
hit. What are you talking
I
about?
still remember that car
No.
vividly. I was little.
Who picked us up?
Some guy.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know.
could have been a murderer.
He took you somewhere for like 3 hours, left me on the street, then you guys came back. I don't
Oh,
know.
you're full of shit too.
No, we
Oh,
did
you're full
hitchhike
of
though.
shit.
No, seriously,
We really
we
hitchhiked.
did hitchhike. Yeah.
Man, I do not remember that. But anyway, I could have had. That's what I got out of the divorce. That's it. I got a Volkswagen, which was not bad, really. Like I said, so I got that, and then I was deciding on what I had to do, where I had to go, because I didn't have money, I didn't have a job, and dumbass me, I never took your dad for support because I'm a dumbass, and he gave me $25 a week support.
He would always say to me, I never missed a child support payment.
Isn't
25
that
bucks.
he should be he should be very proud of that $100 a month.
That's crazy.
Anyway,
Hey, but you got to get. But he did do other things like where he, you know what I mean. He bought me things and stuff. Like he was good in that way.
bullshit. You know what Judge Judy says? Come on. Support is support. He
All
needed to
right,
pay
all
up
right, all
support,
right.
but whatever. That was my fault for never taking it. Well, hey, Oh my God, he could see this blonde. We can't talk about him like this.
Oh, you can see it. Hi, Dad. I love you.
Oh, great, great, whatever. But anyway, that was that. And then in May, it was a very hot May. Do you remember your grandma at all?
I don't.
'Cause you were only 5.5 months
Maybe.
old.
I mean, I wasn't even a year old, Mom. Like, I mean, I think we
No,
have
you were
pictures of
five
it.
and a half months.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
mean.
And I had you dressed in a white t-shirt and a diaper. And that May it was like 90 degrees. And like I said, I was deciding on where I was going to go. So the only place that I could figure out to go, and I didn't have a job at that point, was with my sister, Gwen. Oh Lord. Gwen and her husband.
We lived with her, right?
Yes. But we moved in there in around May, right after my mom died. So anyway, we went to visit your grandma in May. He had a white T-shirt on and a diaper, and like I said, it was very hot. And it was May 18th, the day before, and she was all sweating and she was weak and she didn't feel good. And we sat you down on the living room floor. We put a sheet, and your nana really she loved you. You know, she was a very loving woman, and she loved oh my God, the baby. You know, because that was, I guess Gwen had babies, but that was my first baby. So anyway, we made her go to a doctor. She went to a doctor that day after. I remember leaving her and I said, I'll talk to you tomorrow, Mom. I said, please go to the doctor. I have a doctor's appointment. She said at 2 o'clock. I said, good. And we gave a kiss and that was it. So then you and I went back and I was packed and getting ready to get out of there. And the next day, because I talked to my mom every day, I talked to her every morning, every morning, every morning. Never there was a day that went by that we didn't talk. So I called my mom and she didn't pick up. And I knew immediately because my mom did not drive. She did not go anywhere. Like, you know what I mean? We brought her cigarettes. We took her to the store. She didn't go anywhere. So when she didn't pick up the phone, I knew something was wrong. So then we called my brother-in-law, Dave, Gwen's husband, and we said, Dave, go on over to Mom's house. So when he went over, um, I guess he had to get the people to let him in, and she was dead in bed. She had a heart attack. So from that day on, I think the shock was so bad for me. It's still like with me today because it was so unexpected. She didn't die of cancer or anything like that. She just died, and it was such a shock. And you were a little baby, and it was. I was very vulnerable back then, really scared and stuff. But anyway, so that was a whole story. That was a sad, sad time, and I moved in with my sister and my sister Gwen, and I was very close to Gwen. What I did at that time was I made her my mother, which was a big mistake. But anyway, you were little, and then I went to work. And do you remember, Charlie? We lived in her basement in Woodgate Apartments. Do you remember those apartments?
I don't. I remember Greensfields. That's my first memory.
Okay. Well, she lived at Woodgate Apartments, and we lived downstairs. So, um, like I would go to work. I would work from 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 1 o'clock at night, and then I would drive home. And like these apartments were like in the woods, so it was like, oh God. So anyway, I lived there. We lived there for God, I don't know, maybe a year and a half.
Is that when you were working at Arner's?
Yes. hmm Then we got our own apartment. Yeah. But a funny story was at Woodgate. That was your dad came to visit you the one time, and I don't know, we started fighting again. Gwen heard us fighting, and she comes downstairs threatening him with a gun and everything. Oh my God, it was bad. You better get out of here before I shoot you. Oh, it was horrible. So then he left. But
That's funny.
yeah, that was tough times because Gwen and Dave used to fight all the time. So it was horrible. So then we got our own apartment, and then our life started from there. I worked at Arner's, and you went to babysitters, which now you tell me they abused you. You didn't tell me then. And, you know, why
Not
didn't you
all.
tell me the babysitter was abusing you?
Not all of. No, no.
What do you mean, not all of it?
Yeah, I remember like I was really little the one, but
Well, what did
then
she do?
I don't even remember. I don't remember.
Did she
Um,
hit you?
I forget. Like I honestly didn't even remember that you said that. But then if you remember, the koalas they babysitted me for a while. They were good. It was the one before
I don't
them.
remember.
Yeah, like the one dude. He's a singer now. Eric Koala, Julie Koala. They used to
That
babysit me
is
when I was
so
a little
weird.
little
I do
kid.
not remember them.
Yeah,
It's so
I think
funny
I
how
think
what you remember, I don't remember.
yeah, yeah.
That's
So
weird.
that's crazy. So then, when did you meet stepdad? You met him when I was like what, 3?
Gwen knew him.
Yeah, but
No, you were
what I remember, we were
2.
we were living in Greenfields,
Where's Greenfields?
Jamestown. Oh,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
Greenfield. That's where my
Oh,
dad used to live, Jamestown. Um,
Jamestown.
Jamestown Apartments. Yeah. But I
Yeah.
remember, I think my nana watched me. Somebody watched me when you were going out on your first date with him. They were
I
tickling my
don't
feet or something. I
remember.
remember. Yeah. But I remember the night you went on a date with him, the first night.
Oh God, I
And before
know.
you know it, we were living in there. He was a. I tell you what, though, he was the perfect. At that time, he was perfect for what the situation was, and he did his best. But it was a like our life would have went a totally different direction if he didn't come into it. I think.
I clung on to him because I was very, very, very needy, and he was a provider. It
We
was a safe place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and he made it very safe. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because think about that. Like, if you never meet him, right? You might have met some more jerk offs or like people that might have been abusive. You never know. You know what I mean?
Or I
Like
might
you
have met a
said,
really wonderful person.
yeah, but I think I think that was like a good scenario for where we were at.
Well, as far as providing and everything,
Well, we're not talking about where
yeah.
you're where you ended up down the road. Right now, we're being like selfish in a sense where like for real, like where the situation was, it was a great
Yeah.
scenario, and he was a good man to do it.
But do you know what's funny? Because I was just talking to Curtis about this morning, and I really believe this. I met Curtis when he was 12. Curtis was 12, and that was at our sandwich shop, your dad and I sandwich shop. And I was cooking a pizza, and he came in with his uncle who lived across the street from our sandwich shop on Mulberry Street.
That's bizarre.
And and he goes, "Oh, she's so cute." And he was 12. And his uncle said, "He thinks you're so cute." And I said, "Oh my God, that little boy, isn't he adorable?" And I was just telling Curtis this because I really believe from that moment on, I know this sounds like far fetched and crazy, but I really believe that from that moment on when we met, that he was and him and I were to be. Because I always in my whole adult life felt a strong pull. And the day that I met him, I knew that that's what it was. Isn't that weird?
That's crazy.
Crazy. But
That's
yeah,
crazy.
anyway. So we were Ron, we moved in with Ron, and he was a drink. He liked to drink a lot. So, well, and the story began, and I stayed in that situation for 30 years, 28 years, because I could not leave, because I was afraid to leave on my own. Isn't that something?
Yeah, it's something, but I mean, common. You know what I mean? I
That's
think
horrible.
a lot of people are in that situation. You know what I mean? A lot of people are in
That
that
you're
situation.
afraid that I did not think I could make it on my own. Even though I went back to college, I graduated from college, and all those things gave me self esteem and that I can do things. But it was that one big thing about money because I came from nothing. And I think it was the safety of the money that kept me there. I was so afraid that I could not do it on my own until it happened that I could, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I often would say that like my dad, like before we got on today, you told me like my personality's so strong, this and that. Well, my dad has that personality, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's always like he's like, because they were poor too. But really, my dad's story and your story are like night and day. Like you're actually the real survivor there. Even if you look at your sisters and stuff, like your whole family as a unit, like you survived. You know what I mean? Where my dad, he had both of his parents. They didn't pass away, my nan and pop, till I was 24. You know what I mean? Then he had women like so. He always, whenever he was taking shots, whenever he always had a unity. Even if he didn't have the money, he had the support. You didn't have any of that. You didn't have
Mm-hmm.
any of that. You know what I mean? And you stayed so committed and true to your true road and your true belief with you because you came from addiction, you came from abusiveness, you came from all that stuff, and not putting any of the family in a bad light at all, like. But you
Mm-hmm.
really went all the way to the extreme where you totally went into recovery in a sense. You know what I mean? So like I always say like you're the strongest one. You're the actual real success story. That's why like me and you doing this podcast, just these interviews, like just this is great because years ago I would have thought, oh, my dad and I are going to do this. My dad got that personality, and I would always put him on a pedestal. You know what I mean? But really, like you got the story. Like our relationship's always been the closest. Not my dad and I. You and I really got that thing, and we've been through wars together. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
my upbringing and who I would have turned out to be would have been totally different if you would have been who you were because my dad had such a power lock on everybody with his personality. I would have been a womanizer for real. I would have probably had a couple $1 million today, but I wouldn't have the integrity that I have today because I would have just been a lost soul, manipulating and using and abusing whatever I could. Where a lot of times I threw the money away, I threw the opportunity away. You watch it time and time again. You know what I mean? Because you
Mm-hmm.
planted something in me that really came to that integrity piece. When
Wow.
I was always at a constant war with myself. I was brutal with
Mm-hmm.
women. You know what I mean? But it didn't feel right because with you, and that's why our relationship now is wonderful. Yeah, we go through bridges, we go through gaps, but I'm just coming out of this crazy period for the past 2 years, and you're the only person I didn't really even come at sideways a little bit because my respect for you it just turned. So I would just step away instead of fight you and know I'm going to get my shit together. You know what I mean? So really,
Mm-hmm.
like you're the one with the incredible story. Then you say it took you 30 years, but come on, how old were you when you finally got divorced? I was living in Miami when you left him. And you bought that little blue you rented that little blue house. I came home for like a couple weeks and then I went back to Miami, but that was the same period where I was about to go through my change because then I got sober, I moved home, I started to become a trainer, you remember, like, so that same
Mm-hmm.
period you totally picked up and left your entire life. So maybe you
Mm-hmm.
didn't do it. Maybe when I was 3, you got in the safe unit, and then you stayed for 30 years because you were afraid to go because of the money and the security. But at that point in your life, you finally were able to stand on your own 2 feet. You didn't have millions of dollars, but you had the confidence within yourself. You did all the self work on yourself. You had a career,
Mm-hmm.
so you made that change. And at that same time, at 28 years old, I made that change in my life. So it all worked out in perfect timing if you really think about it.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you something. There was a time. when you were a baby, and what your dad was about and everything. And there was a time that I was going to take you and run away. Um, and then you would have never known your dad. But something in me said you cannot do that because when he grows up, he's going to hate you if you run away and never let him know your dad, know his dad. Would, what do you think about that? Would you have liked me to run away and you never to know your dad?
It would have been the worst thing you could have did, because you know my dad and I's relationship, but having my dad's present in my life,
Mm-hmm.
it really is completing me and making me the best man I can be. Because we can sit here and talk about a lot of things about my dad, but one thing, me just even having to interact with him, he always loved me. We know that. He lectured
Mm-hmm.
and lectured and gave me so much wisdom. And I feel like I have a certain integrity as a man because of my father. And if I wouldn't have had that, I would have wound up hating my dad without knowing him. But then I might have turned on you, but I feel like I would have been a lost soul. So the greatest thing you did, even though it made it hard at times, even though we've been through war zones together, and even for you especially, you took the brunt of this shit as I was growing up. That part I wish I could change. You took the brunt of this shit. But it was all part of that long term war to get to this point. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
that was the greatest thing you could have ever did, and your gut instinct did the right decision.
Yeah.
I would have been a weak. I'm telling you, mom, it would have been the worst thing possible, and I wouldn't have had my nana and pop, who were huge in my life. They also
Yes.
gave me something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was
Well, I'm
that.
glad to.
Yeah, that was the greatest. That would, mom, that would have been the worst move I think you could have ever made.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to know that.
Because you know how many people, and we've been through everything. And here's the other thing, mom. You and my dad hated each other when I was young, and then when I became a teenager, you kind of merged.
Mm-hmm.
That and everything was just perfect timing. Like when you merged, it was needed to merge.
Yeah.
Because before that, I played two ends against the middle. With my dad, I was like, yes, thank you. I was this angel. With you, I was a maniac. But that's
Mm-hmm.
why now I don't disrespect you. And that's why it's so funny, because I just got done disrespecting my dad in a way. You know what I mean? Because
Mm-hmm.
it was almost like that needed to happen because of what you endured. You know what I'm saying? Like in a weird way, but that's a whole different topic. But
Yeah.
no, like yeah, like the dynamics, it's a perfect storm, I think. I mean, everything
Well,
I've been through, huh?
I'm just glad that I know that. 'Cause, I often wondered about that.
Oh, 1,000%. Like no way. That was the only move you could have made. Because
Yeah.
there's certain there's certain moms that, am I blurry here?
A little.
Yeah, I got blurry for a sec.
Yeah, you did. Oh, there it is. It's
Uh,
good. It's good.
yeah, it's good. So there's certain parents that let them hate their dad or mom. I think that's the worst thing in
Yeah.
the world you can do. I really do, because they're still your parent. Now, if my dad was abusing me, I mean, come on, like, I mean, like in a different kind of way. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain things where, yeah, you maybe shouldn't see your other parent, but I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I know everybody says this, but I got two greatest parents in the world. When it comes to integrity, when it comes to character, when it comes to a strong belief, we're not sellouts
Mm-hmm.
to our default sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's one thing that's really real. So yeah, it's a perfect storm. And now with Curtis being in the picture, because you mentioned Curtis, like Curtis, I feel like Curtis is a perfect balance between my dad and my stepdad. He's a man's man, but he has the ability to be a nurturer too. Like he treats you really good, but at times he'll man up on you. You know what I mean? But then you have such a backbone where it is what it is, because you guys can balance each other really well. And the more Curtis works on himself, the more you work on yourself. And I don't mean like, oh, Curtis needs to work on himself. Everybody needs that in the relationship. If you're not working on yourself, it's a waste. So, but the more that happens, the more like compatible and respect and nurturing there can be in the household. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And one more thing, you and my dad were both alphas.
We're both what?
Like alphas, like you guys were both like aggressors. So you and my dad in a household together. Now that would have been a mistake. I would have hated my dad for real if you were his wife. If we grew up in the same household together, the way he would have treated you, I would have hated his guts.
Mm-hmm.
I would have hated him. I don't hate my dad today.
Mm-hmm.
I have issues.
Yep.
I don't hate I love my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Because how he treats other women, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
But if I would have saw him treating you a certain way, I would have hated. I would have really for real hated him. You know what I mean? And then growing up in a house with stepdad, I never say a bad word. I always put him on a pedestal, rightfully so. But you were the dominant one in that.
I know you hated me because all he ever was is self pity me.
I was codependent on him.
You pitied him real well and blamed everything on me.
Well,
when he needed to step up, but that was him.
I get it now.
Now you get it, yeah.
But
yep. It's funny.
Yeah.
The dynamics of relationships.
Yeah.
So how long is this thing gonna go?
We can almost. I was just thinking, like, I think we really covered a lot today, and so you see how simple it is. Like, we created so many topics now by just laying out the groundwork, because we kind of organically just went from when I was born, from it snowing outside to current day, and just laid it out there. You know what I mean? And next week when we do this or whatever, we might say, you know what, let's zone in on this period now for real. And just from this conversation, people could take things about. Think about that. We can devote a whole thing to what made you stay for 30 years. Like, we scratched the surface, but this might give somebody courage to make a move with where they're at. Who knows?
Yeah.
That question you asked me was one of the realest questions maybe ever asked on a platform. Charlie, I was thinking about getting up and running away so you don't know your dad. Would that the right move or wrong move?
Yeah.
Come on. That's one of the realest questions ever. There's so much to go from. And you see how simple this went?
Yeah, it was simple.
So, yeah. That's good.
Okay.
So now, I think we'll go with episode 1, huh?
Okay. Sounds good.
So
I like sessions with Mom. That's cute.
I do too.
Yeah.
It's cool. And like, because we talk on the phone, but now we're talking face to face, which is awesome. We're recording it, which is awesome, but it's more like deliberate with the topics.
Yeah, I like it. All right.
All right, easy peasy.
He's snoring in the background.
He's snoring?
Yeah.
He's resting up for when we have to bring Big Daddy on.
Huh?
He's resting up for when we got to bring the Big Daddy on, you know what I mean?
I got to wake him up because we got to straighten up the living room.
That's fine. Yeah, so today was great, Mom. Went easy. And that's it. So we'll go from there.
So, yeah, it was a good one.
All right. I love you.
Love you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.